Hey everybody, Greg Lothian here, and I'm talking about back-friendly training. And if you saw that previous video, I talked about the whole process that I go through, and now I'm going to start to go through it step by step and give you implementable things that you can actually do. So the first step that I take in my approach to back-friendly training, which I'll be honest with you, there is no such thing as back-friendly training. There is training, good training, and then there is back-unfriendly training, which is really poor biomechanics and stuff. So it's a bit of a fallacy, back-friendly training. You should be able to do anything you want to do, whenever you want to do it, barring a couple of, there are a couple of conditions that I talked about in the last video that won't allow you to do some things, but by and large, most of us that have experienced back pain, myself included, should be able to return to all the activities they want to do without worrying about it. And the first step is addressing your imbalances. So I'm going to give you a simple way of assessing some of the most evident imbalances that I see and things that you can simply pick out for yourself. The simplest tool that I have in my arsenal is a dollar store string with a fancy plumb bob. All you need is really just like a bolt or a nut, that you can tie at the bottom, so something that's heavy enough to pull this thing straight. And simply stick this to the ceiling. If you have a hook, I use a hook because I use it all the time. This will give you a perfectly straight line, obviously, once it stops moving. Now what you're going to do is you can do this one of two methods. You can either assess this yourself standing in front of a mirror, in which case you have to obviously have this lined up in front of the mirror, and you have to be able to stand a distance from the mirror with the string fairly close to you. Not close to the mirror, but close to you. When you line up your string, the second method is you can be standing there without a mirror and have somebody take a picture of you and then go through, look at the things that I'm going to talk about in a second to assess your own posture. When you set this up, what you want to do is you want to set this up so that it's hanging very close to the ground, and wherever your nut is hanging, or whatever weight you used, make sure it's a very symmetrical weight. You can use washers and stuff like that, that's fine, but not something that's going to deviate to one side, so that you know exactly what point is the middle on the ground. And then take a piece of tape and run the piece of tape from there, so when you're looking at yourself in the mirror or somebody's looking at you in a camera, that the line on the ground and the string are in the same line. Okay, so they're visible together when you're not standing there. From there, there's a couple of very simple things that you can check to verify your posture. The first thing you're going to do is when you stand in front of the string, you really have to make sure your feet are even to the tape. Not in the mirror, because that may be skewed by the position of your head. But when you look down on the ground, you have a piece of tape and your feet are fairly equal distance from the tape. Once they're equal distance, make sure your feet are comfortable the way you normally stand. So a lot of people, they stand with 1 foot out or 2 feet out or 1 foot in. There's all kinds of things that you'll notice with your feet, and we'll talk about that. But make sure you're standing in a natural posture, what's comfortable for you, and you're not trying to correct your posture for the sake of the picture or anything else, okay? So stand naturally. Starts with your feet. Your feet are in the right position. Once your feet are in the right position, you really want to basically close your eyes, stand comfortably, and then when you open your eyes or when you take the picture, you're going to assess yourself from the ground up. Now there's a couple of things that you're going to specifically look for. One, foot position. Your foot position, if you have one foot that's really turned out, this is an imbalance, right? You have one foot that's facing one direction, one foot's facing another direction. It behooves you to correct that. The simplest correction is by rocking back on your heel and every day try and get as many repetitions in as you can. Rock back on your heel, turn your foot in by using your whole leg to turn your foot in. Turn your foot in and let it relax. Turn your foot in, let it relax. And repeat this and repeat this. You want 20 to 50 repetitions a day, and get yourself to 500 repetitions in a timely manner before you reassess it and see what's going on. If there is literally no change at all, then this is when maybe you seek out some therapeutic help where somebody can do a manual release to help you realign your foot or find out what's going on, more specifically what's going on that's turning your foot out, whether it's actually coming from the ankle, knee, hip, or back. Okay? So that's very simple. If you have one foot out, just turn it in every day turn it in. Okay? The second thing you'll assess is if your feet are directly even to the tape, look at where your pelvis is in relation to the line. If the line doesn't fall in the middle of your pelvis, it means your pelvis is shifted off and you probably have the center of gravity off onto one foot. If your center of gravity, and I was, before I start getting into these assessments, it was very dominant. It's very common to be dominant on one side. I carried a lot of my weight on my right side. This is a very straightforward thing to fix. There could be a number of reasons why you're like this, just comfort or, we're not going to get into the details of it because there could be a lot of things, but the simplest fix could be the same thing. Either make sure that you feel like you have maybe a little bit of extra weight on your one foot, or every day you push your pelvis, stand, if you have your line set up and your mirror there, then you can push your pelvis to one side, and every day try and do that. And again, get yourself 20, 50 repetitions every day. Get yourself to 500, 1,000 repetitions, whatever it starts to take to change this. Seek help if it doesn't change at all. Typically, it will start to change very simply, even if it's just a subtle change, it starts to change, then keep working with it. Okay? So you have your feet, your pelvis. The next thing you're going to look for is to see if your upper body is deviated to one side or not. The simplest way to see if your upper body is deviated to one side is you have to do it in reference to your pelvis. Okay? So if your pelvis is shifted to one side, but your head falls in the middle of the line, then you're probably shifted like this, and what you'll notice is that your arm is very close to your body on one side and not so close on the other side. That fix may be just to reposition your pelvis. But for some of us, your pelvis is centered and you're off like this, you have no space between one arm and lots of space between the other arm and your body. Well, now you know that your upper body is shifted, and what you'll probably notice there is that either one eye is in front of the string or even your head is completely off center from the string. Okay? The simplest way to correct this, you always want to start from the ground up. Make sure you're centered in the middle. Make sure your pelvis is centered. And then take your upper body and push it to the opposite side. And repeat this 20, 50 times. And for a lot of people, this is going to be really awkward to do at first, to be able to just do that movement. Most people will try and side bend. If you're off to the side bending isn't the thing that's going to correct it necessarily. It's shifting over. You want to take your whole body and shift over like this. If this movement is very foreign to you, you need to practice it over and over again. A star glide is an exercise that I give all the time. You're standing in a star position and gliding over to one side and then back. And making sure that if it's a corrective exercise for an imbalance that you have, that you're only doing it to one side. Okay? Practice your 20 to 50 repetitions, get to 500, 1,000 repetitions, and start to mark the change. Okay? So those are the three very simple things you can check. I'll give you a bonus fourth thing that you can check to make sure everything's okay. When you're standing and you're centered on the line, have a look at your shoulders to see which shoulder is higher or lower, or if they're even. Now, if you look at yourself and you're like, oh my God, my right shoulder is way down, there must be something wrong. If you are gross motor skilled, so that's like picking things up, moving things, pushing things, sports, that sort of stuff. Gross motor skilled, right-handed, that shoulder should be lower because it's more flexible, it's used more. Now, if you're gross motor skilled, right-handed, you do everything with your right hand like I do, and your left shoulder is down, that's telling me there's something going on with your back. And that's the kind of thing that maybe you should seek, have somebody evaluate it, find out what's going on, especially if you're having shoulder pain or neck pain or low back pain or anything like that, and start to get yourself so that you're squared away, okay? So those couple of very simple things, little drills that you can follow up with and do on an everyday basis to start to correct your imbalances.